And usually an editor will help you find your voice. If you've written 2, 3, 4, 5 books, you've probably found your voice. If you've not let anyone look at it and help you, you're probably going to take longer to really nail your voice. So writing helps you find your voice, and letting people look at it and help you helps you find your voice.
All these different groups that I lost sight of where it's just too many pieces. Did I write that? Mm-hmm. Remember, that's a part of that 15th version.
Right, right.
You lose your way. So I told everybody right now, I just been writing, and I was like, I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear from you or you.
Right, right.
I'm like, Susan, I just want to write right now, and I'm confident with just dialoguing.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, you have to have fun. That's truly fun. But if you want to write with the view to publish, you have to let people see it. You have to let it be edited. And I think a really good editor helps you hone the craft and hone your voice. And voice is really a lot of times what sells a book. So there was an author back in the day, and she, first novel with one of the publishers, and she gets a call from the editor, and let's talk about the book. And the editor just completely tore the book apart, to the point where she said, "Why did you buy this?" And she said, "We loved your voice." They loved the way she told a story. So first of all, I think, be a storyteller. And so Debbie Maycomber says she was a storyteller in the beginning, but she was not a crafter. And there was another author, I think it was maybe Linda Leal Miller, who was a crafter, but not a storyteller. And so they had to, as they were both working on their craft, and then that's as they worked on their weaknesses, and they both eventually got published. So,
but how do you know if it's taking you longer, that's what you really should do? Did you ever fear that, God, I heard you wrong?
For me?
I'm just asking. Yeah, did you ever have that fear? God, I heard you wrong?
So when I always wanted to write. So when I got to the point of, we got married, and a year into our marriage, in fact, on our first anniversary, I felt like the Lord said, quit your job. So I'm like, wow, I haven't not had a job since I was 14 years old, and I'm 32. So this is cool. So I was just like hanging out. Monday was my house cleaning day, and Tuesday was my shopping day. You know, I was a housewife. I was having fun. And we had a computer. And we didn't have a TV, so I was reading a lot of Christian fiction in the early 90s. And so I started writing a story. And that began that journey. And so I ended up back in the corporate world for a while. So finally, when it came to, am I going to be a novelist or not? I said, Lord, I spend too much time thinking about stories. I go to prayer time. I end up thinking about a story. Like, if you've not called me to do this, I don't want to stand before you and account for wasted time. Within 3 months, he opened a door. That was my first heart song. It was a co-write. By the way, which I said I would never write a heart song because I was not going to write a super sweet romance. Well, guess where you're going, kiddo?
The very place you said you weren't.
The very place I said I wasn't. But that's the door. I went to a conference. Conference is very important. I went to a conference. I met people, started the networking process. And so I met a woman named Lynn Coleman at the Blue Ridge Conference. She said, hey, let's write together. She opened the door for me for Barbara with the Heart Song novels. And that's how I got started. And I wrote the novel.
Wow.
So we brainstormed it together, but I wrote it. So I think for me, I just had some natural gifting as far as being able to write and tell a story. I look at those now and I go, woo! Yes, indeed, they published you. You're a blessed woman. But they were what Heart Song needed, and that's what they were looking for. And they're sweet romances, but they had enough of a voice, I think, to get me published. And so, but I said, Lord, I'm not going to account for wasted time. I don't want to do this if this is not what you called me to do.
Gotcha.
And he opened the door. So if God's called you to write, he'll open the door. But here's the thing I've had to learn over and over on this journey is I leave the outcome to God.
Come on.
So I'm published. Did my first books do well? Nope. Did I get a 4.5-star review, top pick from RT? Nope. Did I final for a contest? Nope. So I was out there, but to no acclaim whatsoever. And so I had to, all right, roll up my sleeves. I'm going to get to work. I'm going to keep doing this. Just going to keep learning, going to keep networking, going to keep writing. Because I quit my job, and this was it. I'm writing because I felt this is the Lord had called me to do it. And doors just kept opening, but I stayed with the craft. And, it was kind of like, we're going to start down here. We'll get up here eventually, but we're going to start down here. So, but I stayed with working the craft. I, stayed with other authors, getting to know other authors, working with other authors, developed a partnership with Susie Warren that was very impactful to my writing career. So I think you have to stay with it.
Even when you said earlier, we was looking at the assessment and the part that talks about a return on an investment, it drives me.
Yeah.
So for me, it hasn't been a great return as far as if a person looked at financial, but sometimes I think fear entered in that I spent so much time. I've taken so much of my husband's money and invested in becoming a writer that there were seasons when I would look and say, oh, Lord God, have I been on this path? And I'm taking, I hate takers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Lord God, am I turning into a taker? Mm-hmm. And so, wow. And when will I finally... that battle.
The battle, yeah.
I've just had to but I love it so. But when you say when God opened up doors, it's been different types of opportunities. The relationships that I've made, never would have made if I wouldn't have been in the room that day. And here you are. I don't know how you said, my black sisters, if you would stand with me. I was like, that's a bold white woman. That was my thought.
That was a white woman obeying God. I said, with the brown and black writers, please stand.
There it is.
Because God wanted to honor you. God wanted to honor you.
And then we looking around. It was so funny. I don't even remember Simone's last name. I just know her name is Simone. I remember what her hair looked like. We wrote to each other maybe one time after that conference. Mm-hmm. And she was a PK kid too. Mm-hmm. I still remember that. And she might have been at this table or a table close to me. And if you did it, I looked over at her. She looked at me like, do we stand up? I guess we stand up right now. But I was like, it was the most welcoming feeling, especially when you're going into a camp that you don't know.
That you don't know, right.
Very few were there.
Yeah.
And I was in such a new, Lord, I really feel like I want to write. Francine Rivers, and I was just like, I know I'll probably never be a Francine Rivers, but some people probably say my thinking is crazy. I said, but Lord God, she ain't gonna live forever.
That's right.
And when she off the scene, who's supposed to keep walking in these places?
That's right.
Because I really appreciate the way, when you said, if you read somebody, I was like, this woman preaching, but she ain't on no, she's
telling a story.
But she's telling a story, and I love storytelling, and she ain't in no pulpit, and her books is in stores. I had seen them on shelves because I was working at Lifeway at the time.
Oh, okay.
And I ain't gonna lie, I was reading romance. My guy, what was it? Flavio was my guy with them ships. So I was like, I love it. I just flipped through the pages right quick to that and get to what I want to read because I love romance so much. But I was really going through a season of, if my daughter picked up this book, does she know to flip through the pages? If somebody from the church came over and flipped through the pages, would I snatch the book?
Right.
And I happened to be working there, and I saw her on a shelf, and I was just like, this is romance? Hold on, they got Christian romance?
Yeah.
Then I saw, and the more and more I was reading her stuff, I was like, you mean I could write romance? And still, because I was like, but this woman's ministering to me, because here it is, you have this harlot who's broken, because I know a broken past when you're broken and you're hard to love, but you want somebody to love you and see past your layers.
Yeah. You
know what I'm saying? Because I needed I just had some issues. And I was like, this woman's ministering to me. And I didn't want it from no churchy point of view, because look, I've been there. I lived on the opposite side. I'm PK kid, done seen it all, done it all.
Yeah.
But I said all of that to say, I really felt compelled to, at that time, before I started writing, and now I've hit some bumps in the road. And did I get the message right? Have I used my husband's money? Have I taken time from my kids?
Right.
They grown and going, because I was 40 when I started writing, because finally they through high school and all this kind of stuff. But I've spent a lot of time, and the finances could really use me getting back into going back to work, because I know how to work.
Yeah. I think that is the war for writing. So when I decided, and I knew, I could see that the corporate world that I was in was shifting and changing, and that I was going to either see a pink slip or a layoff. I was going to see something sooner or later. And I also was in my 40s, and I thought, in 10 years, I don't think the corporate world is going to look like the corporate world I entered in the 80s out of college.
Got you.
So what else can I do? I wanted some flexibility. So I'm thinking I didn't want to do massage, but I've always been fascinated with hair. I could do hair or nails. How much do they make? Maybe I could do electrolysis. Oh, I don't want to hurt people. So, like, what can I do? And the Lord is like, McFly, hello, you're a writer. Right.
Yeah.
So I said, eggs, let's jump in that basket. And when I quit work to write full time, I had one Heart Song contract for $2,500. I cut our household income in 2/3 when I quit. So we said, all right, Lord, here we go. So my beautiful husband, patron, again, the same thing. We could have been stocking money in the 401k. But the Lord said, right. So for me, it was putting all my eggs in the writing basket.
Gotcha.
There was no other option. There was no beauty school. There was no corporate world anymore. I had no other option. I either make it or I don't.
Oh, wow.
So that was key for me. I closed all the other doors. There was no other option. And I feel like in some ways, it depends on your personality. There has to be a little bit of that. Like, there's no other option. If I'm going to be a writer and I want to write novels and I want to be published, and I don't care if you're indie or trad, but you want to be published well as an indie author. You want to be an indie author that does make a difference, that writes good craft. And there's lots of them out there. Or you want to be a trad author that, is making a difference and writing good craft. I think there has to be some point in your life where I'm writing, that's it, eggs in the basket, I'm done with everything else. So God may call it, like, I'm a worship leader, so I do that.
Yeah.
I'm a friend and I have family and I do those things. But as far as like, what am I doing for a living? What am I doing? What's my quote ministry? Writing. Period.
Gotcha.
So for me, that was key. Is I took out all the other eggs.
I love how you just even gave some clarity to my walk, because I can't make no living from my book writing.
Right.
Ever as of yet. But I don't think I've never truly let go of all my other baskets either.
Right.
So, but in this season, I'm afraid not to.
Right.
You know how you straddled the fence so long that you just like.
And there's others who work full time, and then they write at night on the
weekend. And do well.
And they do well. It's not an easy life, but they also have to balance family, kids, other things. So I think it's a matter of looking at your calendar and going, okay, I do my job in the morning, and in the afternoon I write. From 3 to 5, I'm writing a novel. Period. Everything else goes away.
Oh, that was good.
That's my basket. So for us, a couple of years, during COVID, Tony and I started getting up early to pray. Actually, he started getting up early to pray, and I started getting up early to pray, and I messed up his strategy. Didn't I, babe? But we were getting up at 5 to pray, and we were doing really great until the end of last year, and then it just got, wow, we're so tired. But then he goes, let's pray at 5 in the afternoon. So praying on the 5s, 5 a.m., 5 p.m. So for me, I was upstairs, writing at my desk from 12 to 5. 5 o'clock hit, I'm praying. I'd go on a prayer walk. So that was my other basket. Like, I've got eggs in this basket. I'm going to have a prayer life.
Come on.
I know the Lord's called me to kind of an Anna prayer life, a Mary at his feet life.
Yeah.
So I'm done fooling around with that. All eggs in on that basket. So if I'm not writing, and doing household chores or whatever, or church leading worship, I need to have an attitude of prayer, because that's what I'm called to.
Come on.
So now that I was on deadline the last couple of weeks, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 5:30. So it's not like I'm religious about it. It's not like I allow myself to flow, but pretty much 5 o'clock, I'm done, and I'm going prayer walking. I'll see y'all later.
Love it.
Right? We eat dinner 6:30, 7 o'clock, because that's when I get back, right? So I think it's knowing what your calling is. And I'm 61, and I'm just kind of coming into a new lane.
Okay.
Right? So a couple of years ago, I felt like the Lord really called me. I've always loved the place of prayer, loved the place of worship. I've always chased that at some level, but the Lord was like, let's up the game. Let's up the game. And I'm not a classic intercessor. I'll sit here and I'm like, who am I praying for? What am I praying for? I turn on the house prayer in Kansas City. So what are they praying for? I'll join them. I'm not someone who's like, oh man, I got a prayer burden. I'll pray it all night. I'm not one of those kind of people. I'm just called to be there.
Yeah.
So I'm finding my way with that. So those are my baskets. So I think it's a matter of knowing what your baskets are.
I love that. What I hear you say.